3 Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Link in the description. The HE-219. Germany's answer to the Hawker Hunter before the Hunter was even developed. Anyways, hello you sexy beast and welcome back to, you guessed it, War Thunder. This is the HE-219 A-7. The first player-made aircraft in the game. Yes, this model was indeed made by a War Thunder player and put into the game afterwards. It looks absolutely amazing and it is part of the revenue share program. Now, this thing sits in the German tech tree at tier 4. It is indeed a premium aircraft. One thing that is very notable with this aircraft is that even though it is a rank 4 aircraft, it only has a battle rating of 4.3. And with the recent changes in how the matchmaker works, you can actually face tier 2 battle rating 3.3 fighters. Now, what makes this thing so special and why did I compare it to the Hunter? Well, let's take a look at the Armament. That is the wrong button. Taking a look at the Armament quickly reveals why this thing is so popular. It is not equipped with one, but two 30mm Mk103s, two 30mm Mk108s, and two 20mm MG151s. With a lot of ammo to the boot, a total of 1000 cannon rounds. This results in a burst mass of 15.38 kilograms per second. That is, if I'm not mistaken, the second highest in the game, just below the Hunter that has 20 kilograms per second. This thing will outgun even Focke-Wulf 190s with full cannon loads. It is absolutely insane in its burst mass. Now, of course, having all those cannons wouldn't help much if they were all spread out all across the wing, but they are not. As you can see, you have two of the 30mm cannons and the 20mm on the bottom, as well as the 30mm Mk108s, if I'm not mistaken. These are the short barrel versions on the on the wing root. This makes the grouping of these guns very tight and very accurate. Now, you do have to keep in mind that these guns all have different muzzle velocities, and since they are mounted at different altitudes, you are most of the time not going to hit the same target with all of the guns at once. But you don't need to. Remember, the Germans get Minengeschoss shells, which means that these 30mm cannons, even with the flight model changes, even with the damage model changes, you usually don't need more than 1 or 2 hits with the 30mm cannons to down anything. These things are absolutely insane. Taking a look at the rest of the X-ray reveals one of the major problems with the HE-219. There are fuel tanks all over the place, and the engines are a bit weird too. If you look at this thing from normally, it would look like the engines were radials, but they are not. They are inline inverted engines, which provides a couple of problems. Inline engines are much more susceptible to damage than radial, since they have the whole water cooling system. Which means that these things do get shot down quite easily. And even though they do have 2 engines, they are not quite strong enough to bring the aircraft back home if one of them fails. So do keep that in mind. Another interesting fact is that you do get 2 pilots. Now, in real life, this back personnel here would be the radar operator. As you can see from these big whiskers over here, this does indeed have radar capabilities. Not quite modeled in game, but you do get 2 pilots. And what is very interesting is that all the armor is in here. Now, this 12mm plate here on the front, and you don't get any armored glass, so keep that in mind. It will save the pilot from high explosive shells, not from APHE shells, not from any type of armor-piercing shells. The front pilot is going to be dead most of the time when you go into a head-on. However, the back pilot is protected by 3 plates, which means this back pilot is extremely hard to take down, and he will most of the time survive. And since he is Hans, the magic German pilot, he can actually navigate the aircraft whilst sitting backwards. Alright, so this thing is a head-on machine, but what else can it do? Well, let's find out. Alright, now quick disclaimer. We are on Norway, which is one of the worst maps to get in the HE-219. The reasons of which we are going to get into later on in this video. Now the HE-219 is is interesting. First of all, it is classified as a interceptor, meaning that it does get the interceptor spawn. That being said, it is not really a fighter. Now, the guns are extremely good. As I said before, a single hit can take down anything. However, with the aircraft being such a big target, having such a massive wing area, having fuel tanks all over the place, and frankly not much armor either, the wings are very easy to snap off by the enemy. I haven't actually been able to snap the wing off myself, but that's beside the point, because honestly you're not going to be doing too many maneuvers at high speeds anyways. Now, the aircraft is very heavy, especially with all of that armament, with the two engines, with the overall size of the aircraft. It is a very, very heavy aircraft. Despite that, it is actually quite maneuverable at high speeds. As you can see, at around 500 km per hour, I can more or less even keep up with that Spitfire. That being said, you have to watch out for one thing, which is the energy retention. The AT219 suffers from the classical case of having elevators that completely bleed out your energy. It's kind of, it's the same with the Wyvern in that regard. If you saw the Wyvern video, it is very similar in that regard. If you can, you should avoid at all costs to use the elevators. Now, the big difference between this and the Wyvern, of course, is, well, first of all, the Wyvern is extremely fast, something that the AT219 isn't really. That being said, the AT219 does have the advantage in armament, as that Mosquito had to find out the hard way. Yep, 30mm cannons against a wooden aircraft. Bad results for them. Bad results for them. Now, one of the things that the AT219 is very, very good at, with all that burst mass and the massive stockpiles of ammo it does have available to it, is going for the ground attack role. Still in the same map, we are going after the patrol boats, and as you can see, we can very, very quickly take out large groups of ground targets in just a very quick succession. And indeed, later on in the gameplay, I'm going to show you the real strength of the AT219. Should I do some spoilers? No, let's wait for that. So how does this thing actually fare as a fighter? As said before, at high speeds this thing is actually quite maneuverable. We can just kind of evade more or less effectively. It kind of depends on your enemy being dumb enough to go into head-ons with you. As I said, the AT219 is a head-on machine. Now, here is something that I do very, very wrong. As you can see, 165, even though the stall speed of the AT219, thanks to that massive wing area, is actually quite low, it just loses all of its maneuverability below 400 km per hour. And there's no way we can face a Spitfire at these kinds of speeds. And being such a huge target, not really being that sturdy, it gets taken out very, very easily if you do a mistake. So you do have to keep an eye out for that. And in this game I tried to use it as a conventional high altitude fighter. Given that it does get an interceptor spawn, it should be able to at least have some kind of advantage at altitude. And whilst it can very effectively take down bombers with its absolutely insane burst mass, I did notice that the climb rate isn't actually all that great. Neither is the speed in a straight line. Now, the AT219 can go upwards of 750 km per hour in a dive. 750 km per hour is the red line speed of this aircraft. However, at these kinds of altitudes, you just don't really have the acceleration, you don't really have the climb rate, you start to lose all of your elevator authority, and you don't really, as I said before, you don't really have the acceleration to get away from anything. And the AT219 is one of those aircraft that can't really take many hits to the wings, that you snap right off.
Attention to the designated grid square.
So what else can we do then? Let's try and go for the landing craft again. Now at low altitude this thing does seem to behave a bit better. The trick with the AT219 is using that speed to do short maneuvers and to force the enemy that's diving on you to overshoot. In the next couple of seconds there's going to be a Spitfire, a Wyvern, and I think another Spitfire if I'm not mistaken. There are going to be 3 aircraft engaging me. Now, thanks to the overall decent maneuverability at higher speeds, we are going to be able to juke 2 of them out. But once something is on your arse and you're at low speed and by yourself, there isn't much you can do. The HE-219 is definitely not a solo fighter. You have to use this thing kind of as a support aircraft, stick close to friendlies, try to help them out and try to make them help you out. You're an excellent bait simply because people just tend to be attracted to the HE-219. People underestimate this aircraft, they go into head-ons, they lose their elevators, they crash into the sea. They try to go into head-ons with you, they try to pile on you simply because you're such a huge and slow target, and they think that you are an easy kill. And you are, unless you know how to make them crash into the sea yet again.
Attacking.
Now at this point the Wyvern of course is going to punch our number, there's nothing we can do.
We are moving.
Alright, so we said good things and we said bad things. Now I kept the screen in just to show you that we are using air target belts on all of our guns. Well, universal on the MK108, but you get the point. This is very important. Welcome to Sicily. This map is going to be your best friend when you're flying the HE-219. For one very simple reason. We fast forward to us getting to the medium tanks up ahead. Now, the ones of you who have been flying the German 30mm cannons lately, you know what's about to happen. I'll just go silent and let you enjoy the show. Now tell me that isn't beautiful. Look at the amount of silver lions and research points we get in the space of 10 seconds. Just tank after tank after tank after tank after tank. 13 tanks in one single pass. That was pretty much the entire tank column gone. I think only 2 were left. 17,000 silver lions and over 7,000 research points in 10 seconds. When you get a tank column to yourself, this thing is one of the best grinding machines in the game. That being said, it is very rare to happen. Now a couple of tips I can give you is try and keep at low speed. If you are going after a ground target, try keeping at low speed and watch out for typhoons engaging you. Now the big error that the Typhoon here was doing is trying to approach us at an angle. Since his cannons are mounted on the wings, he was kind of just shooting above and below us. And he tried to slow down to get into us on the turn, but thanks to the extremely low stall speed of the HE-219, that's not a problem. Pilot and wing straight gone. That's the power of these guns. Now when attacking ground targets, the best speeds to go at is between 300 to 350 km per hour. Use your takeoff flaps, this is very important. If you don't use your flaps, you're going to suffer from the aircraft just kind of nosing down and you always being at the risk of going into the ground. If you use your flaps, however, you're going to change the attitude of your aircraft and be able to keep your distance from the ground while still being able to point your guns down on the targets, on the tanks, on the ground of course. And that's the best way to go after the ground targets. So how do you really use this thing then? It's a ground attacker. Honestly, just don't try to use it as a fighter. You can have some success pairing up with your teammates, trying to be a support fighter, trying to play with some other HE-219s maybe, but once you are caught up by yourself, once you're caught alone, you are dead. There's nothing you can do against a fighter or even enemy heavy fighters that slot in behind your tail. You don't have the energy retention to sustain the turns, you don't have the climb rate to get away from them, you don't have the acceleration, and you don't have the speed. The only thing you can do is if you're at some altitude you can try to dive away, but even then 750 km per hour isn't that much, and you're just a very, very frail target. That being said, when the enemy does ignore you, or when they try to go into head-on with you, you can absolutely destroy them with those guns. That of course coupled with the pilots, with you having 2 pilots and one of them being quite safe from enemy guns, it is overall just an excellent head-on machine. And this is pretty much the end of the gameplay. As you can see, our left engine is down, our right engine is heavily damaged, and we don't exactly have enough power to get ourselves back to the airfield. That's the only problem really with the engines of this thing. The aircraft itself is too heavy for the engines to propel it by themselves. If one of the engines gets shot down, either you already are at altitude or you're going to have a very hard time getting back to base. So we're pretty much just going to do a barrel roll on that hill. Now, to cap up the HE-219, awesome guns, lots of ammunition. It can kill entire tank columns with its 30mm cannons with the HE shells. This is very important. Use the HE shells, use the air target belts. Don't use the armored target belts on the MK103 unless you're going for actually player control tanks. Against AI, just use the HE shells. That's the best thing you can do. Now, is it worth it? Honestly, I would say yes. It is very situational. It is a pure ground attacker, one of the best ground attackers in the game maybe. Even though it doesn't carry in the bombs, it's awesome for taking out like pillboxes and medium tanks. That being said, it is not a fighter. Most of the time, if you're not a very good pilot, if you don't know how to bait the enemy into going into head-ons or make them overshoot, you're going to get shut down very, very quickly. Once someone sees this thing in the air, they're going to go for you. It's like a magnet for enemy fighters. You're just an easy kill, and the enemy knows that. But that being said, it's a tier 4 aircraft, it's at a 4.3 battle rating. It is very good for grinding out the German tree. And by buying this aircraft, you also give some percentage of the GE to the creator of this aircraft, since it was play created. Right guys, tell me in the comment section down below what you think about the HE-219. What have been your experiences? Have you played against it? Have you played with it? Do you know how to play it now? Will you have more success? Tell me in the comment section down below. I will be very, very interested to hear your opinions. Anyways guys, this has been it for this video. As always, leave this video a like if you did, subscribe if you're around here, and check out the playlist that we have on the channel. As always, my name's been MikeGoesBoom. Thanks for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path along the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find a slightly